Everybody, welcome. I'm Chef Jeff, and welcome to the virtual Sweet and Savory Classroom. And once again, I'm excited to be here cooking with you tonight. We had a lot of people who were here last weekend and had a great time. A lot of you are back again, and then I think you've shared this with your friends and your family and all that kind of fun stuff. And so we're going to do this together again tonight. I just think it's important during this time to open with a word of prayer. And of course, you may not believe like I do or like we do here, and that's totally cool. And so if you pray to some other God than me, that's fine too. We love Jesus here, and we're going to pray to Jesus. You pray to whoever you pray to. Don't pray at all. It's totally up to you. I won't push my faith on you, but I do want to pray for us again this evening, and because in my opinion, we just can't get enough of it right now. So I'm standing up and I'm going to pray looking up tonight, just because I'm just thinking of you, Lord, and I just want to say, Father, thank you so much for today. Each and every day that we get to wake up and open our eyes and see this beautiful world that you created for us is a blessing to us. And I just want us to be grateful for that opportunity. And Father, I want to pray for all the people who are sick, for all the people who are hurting right now, that you would just start to give them some comfort, because it's crazy. It's crazy what's going on. We never could fathom or think about all of what's happening. No one could ever really imagine this. And so I just want to, Father, I just ask that you definitely give everyone some peace in their lives. And Father, pray for protection of all the families. I pray that there's just a little coronavirus stay out of my life bubble going over all of you, and to keep us all safe and healthy. Thank you to all the first responders and the people who are dealing with the sick and the hurt, directly. Pray for their protection as well. And then I just am grateful that we can use this opportunity right now, the next couple hours. You know what? Let's just forget about it all for a minute. Let's just have a great time, and let's just hug your family, kiss your family, and let's just do this together. All right. So I say all that, and I just thank you, Lord, for being in our lives. And I pray for healing for everyone in Jesus' name. Amen. So there we go. Let's get started. Virtual pasta. I'll quit talking as much, but I threw these out here in case just a reminder for you parents. It's probably been crazy at your house, so only drink little bits. I'm not promoting lots of drinking because it's crazy, but just a little bit sounds good. So there's some wine, and then this is the flour that we're using tonight. It's called 00 pizza and pasta flour, or caputo, right? And so this one, we'll talk about the flour here in a little bit. We'll have a little bit of a flour lesson. Right? Now, let's go over some rules. Let's do a little housekeeping for tonight. The first housekeeping is to wash your hands. Always wash your hands. All right, so wash your hands, stay clean. While you're cooking at home, we've washed our hands. Second is I like to set up some sort of sanitizing or cleaning solution. So at home, I use some like antibacterial soap in my sink, and get some like soapy water in a bowl or in my sink to stay there. We also use Norwex cloths. We use a lot of Norwex cloths at home. And then here at the classroom, we use this red bucket. This is a special it's quaternary based sanitizer. And if you go to Sam's Club or Costco, you can buy this. It's usually a pink solution called sanitizer, and it's a commercial grade stuff that you can use to wipe down your surfaces. So that's what we use here in the classroom. So wash your hands, get ready to be sanitary. And then the next part is your ingredients. I definitely took into consideration a lot of the people's comments from last week. Thank you for all the testimonials. Thank you for all the comments. And I want to give you an opportunity to get ready. If you see in some of the emails, it says you're welcome to measure things out and portion things out. So here at the classroom, we use a lot of these trays. So we have some, like my ingredients for my pasta, they're weighed out right now. Let me move this down just a little bit. Okay. So my ingredients for pasta are weighed and measured and ready to go, as well as my cream sauce. The ingredients are kind of ready to go. So that's what you want to do. You want to get your ingredients. Hey, everyone, there's Chef Joe right there. Everyone say hi, Chef Joe.
Hi, Chef Joe.
Okay, Chef Joe, and you met Ted over there. That's my producer. But you want to get your ingredients ready to go so that it makes class a lot smoother. Just measure it out. We're going to still cut and chop everything, but if you want to cut and chop things ahead of time, you're always welcome to do so. I have a scale. Is that the question? So if you don't have a scale, that is what we can do is, I didn't think about that one. Give me a second. If you don't have a scale, I'll measure mine in cups right now. So we're going to get a cup measurer and we'll fix that for you right now. So Joe, I have a double batch right now. Okay, I'm going to get another bowl so we can measure it into it. Very good question. I got a bowl. Cool. So,
Quarter, half, and a whole.
got it. Okay, so right now, the way you measure flour, I just scooped it, wipe it off. There's 1 cup. Scoop it. Oh, by the way, we're going to start with pasta dough. You're making the pasta dough first. And then after that, we're going to go and we're going to make the marinara sauce. And then we'll make the cream sauce. And then we'll come back and finish our pasta later because your pasta needs time to rest. So we are officially starting. We are making pasta dough right now. So there was my first cup right there. I get mine. So 2 cups. So 2. This is a double batch. This is for 4 people. Or I'm sorry, it actually will serve your recipe. Your recipe just on the pasta dough, that recipe serves 3 people. And so I kept it a little bit larger recipe so you have a little bit more to play with since we're going to be hand rolling some of this out. But so I doubled that recipe so it's really, this should serve 6 people. I had 2 cups go into so that's roughly 2.5. Yeah, with that little extra. So I'm at 2.5 cups, just a touch over. So 2.5 cups of flour for the double recipe, or if you're just doing the single recipe, it'd be what, 1.25 roughly cups of flour to get you started. Great question. If there's any more, send them up. Okay, so next thing, a couple things you might need for this part. So we have your pasta dough, we have some of your ingredients here, a bench scraper. If you don't have one, that's totally fine. You can just use a knife, right? Just be careful that you don't cut yourself. You can use the back of the knife if you want to. And then this here is dusting flour. So dusting flour, we're not going to use it just yet, but it'll be close by. That goes in there. If I go too fast, just let Chef Joe know in the chat room and I'll slow down. I'm trying to go a little slower than I did last week. And so I'm gonna get this one nice and right on top of my food so we can get this one started. When this happens, I don't mind getting my hands dirty, but gloves are really nice, so I'm gonna use them. And so you're also gonna need a fork, just a plain old fork. So we're going to start off with our flour. So let's talk about the flour for just a minute. This is what we call 00 pizza and pasta flour. And so what this means is, if some of you have been to class, I call it the teddy bear flour. It's just so soft. You just like want to snuggle with this flour. And here's why it's so soft. So this is a wheat flour, and they take the flour and they put it into in a grinding wheel. And if you've ever seen an old grinding wheel, it's pretty cool. I saw those when I traveled to Israel. But when they put it in a mill, and they say the mill starts at like 10. So they grind from 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, right? And they might stop like around 3. And that's where most flours are. So it has a little bit of coarse feel to the flour. But 00, they keep grinding down from 3 down to 2 down to 1, and then they take it down to 0, and then they run it again at 0. It's just a reference tool. That means they grind the flour super fine, and they'll give you a nice, smooth, rich pasta dough or pizza dough. Now, it's not great for breads because breads need a little bit more structure to them. That coarseness actually helps a bread dough come together. And so you don't need to sift your flour. You can sift your flour if you want to, but you don't necessarily need to sift your flour. And I saw that question come in. Do we do 3? For the 3 servings, you do 1.1 cups of flour. I wouldn't. You can't weigh. So when you weigh flour, the only things that will be the same in a liquid measure, like if you took a cup measure and you filled it full of water. Like if I took this cup and I filled it full of water, it should be 8 ounces. It's better, of course, in a liquid measure, but for the most part, for this, if you took a cup measure, filled it full of water, it'd be 8 ounces of liquid in volume, and it would be 8 ounces on a scale. So the only 3 things that are the same are eggs, milk, and water. That would be the same in like a liquid measured cup where you'd have 8 ounces of liquid measure in volume, and also be 8 ounces on the scale. So you don't necessarily you can't take a cup of flour and call that 8 ounces. It would be totally different. Every flour would be different because there's different moisture content in every flour. So a cup of flour is probably anywhere from 5 to 7 ounces if you weighed it. All-purpose, absolutely. So that's one thing. I'm glad you mentioned that. All-purpose flour worked just fine. And for all of you at home tonight, I know some of you couldn't get all the ingredients. That's fine. Use what you've got. Make the best out of what you have. Use whatever flour you have. I made pasta dough with cake flour, and it worked out okay. It seemed a little different, but it worked out okay. So this is a special flour, and if you don't have it, don't worry about it. So here's our 00 flour. Again, we talked about it's ground really fine, and so when it's really fine, it allows it to be nice and smooth when you get the finished product. So there we have that. So now you're gonna take your flour, and we're going. Is everyone ready? Let Chef Joe know in the chat if you're not ready, but we're. Gotcha. Yeah, I'm doing a double, but everything from here on out, it doesn't matter. The amounts don't necessarily matter. Just do the amounts that are on your recipe, and everything just works out fine. Okay. So does that make sense? Question? Good deal. So here we go. We have our pasta flour. You want to make a hole. So I'm pushing this down. I don't know if you can kind of see. I made a hole in the bowl. All right. And then you're going to take your eggs. So I'm going to get my recipe. Where'd my recipe go? You should have your recipe. Got it. Thanks, Chef Joe.
You're welcome. Oh, I found it.
Did it fall? Oh, okay, cool. You need to have your recipe. So the recipe, for the size I'm doing, I'm going to add my eggs. Take your eggs, crack them in there. I like to crack my eggs on a flat surface before they go in. So there's my whole eggs. So those eggs, I'm using everything, the yolk and the white together. Then you have an egg or two that you're going to use just the yolk. So here's just the yolk. And so we already did one. I'm going to pour that one in. Now, if you'd like to see how I did that, what I did is crack the egg, and then I'm going to take it and just pour it into my hand. That's the way I like to do it. Pour it into my hand, and then go back and forth until the white comes out. Now I've got the egg white and the egg yolk separated. So the egg yolk's going to go in, and I'll save these for breakfast tomorrow. Got those. Then you have your oil. Pour your oil in, and your salt. And that should be all the ingredients now. From there, just take a fork and break up the eggs. The question you might have, or you might not have it, I don't know. But the question I would think about is, why the egg yolks, Chef? Why the egg yolks? So you can make this recipe with just eggs, whole eggs. But the egg yolk, the reason why I add the egg yolk is to enrich the dough. So if any of you out there, if you like cream in your coffee, that's basically taking something that's rich and fatty, has lots of flavor, and adding it to something that will enrich in it. So if you add cream to your coffee is one of them. Add egg yolks to your pasta dough. That could be another one. You can add butter, like even if you steam some broccoli and you add butter to it at the end, that's really technically enriching it with something that's fatty and flavorful. And so that's why the egg yolks are there. We are just going to enrich the dough a little bit to make it just taste a little bit better. That's all. Because the egg white doesn't really have a whole lot of flavor, but the egg white is where most of the moisture comes from, the water that's needed to make the dough happen. Because as I mentioned earlier, this is a wheat dough, and we're going to talk about gluten here in a minute. So I've just been scrambling my eggs in the top, and now I'm going to start grabbing a little bit of flour. See that right there? Grab the flour, mix it in. Grab a little bit more flour, mix it in. Hey, you should be doing this at home right now, right? You're all at home doing this, mixing it right now, right? Yes, yes. Let Chef Joe know in the chat room that you are making this happen with me. So keep mixing. The goal is to get all the flour and all the eggs mixed together. Okay, all right. Maybe that should be our hashtag tonight. Make it happen. Do we have a hashtag yet? Possibilities? That's what Ted said. That might be trademark. Yeah. Okay. You're going to get to this point where it just looks like a mess. That's okay, because it's a mess. Totally fine. John Whiteley, how you doing out there? How are you and Gray doing? Ethan Obenrader, how you doing, man? Are you cooking it up right now? Calling a few of you out. Okay. So here we go. You can get to this point where your fork is just all gunked up. Take 2 fingers and scrape that off. Parents, this is not the time to let your kids put their hands in it. Not yet. Just wait a minute. Okay, just wait. The goal right now, yes, it should be a little yellow. And what's going to happen is you're going to have a bunch of dry stuff here. And you kind of have doughy, wet stuff here. And that's okay. See, I have a bunch of dry stuff here. The goal is just kind of scoop that dry stuff up and push it into the dough. Get your dough as dry as possible before you put your hands in it, and you'll have a much better time later. I'm still just using my fork. You're going to think nothing's happening. It's going to seem that way. But right now I've got this big piece of dough, and I've got all the crumbs. Those crumbs, just get them into the dough. Push them in. Push them in. Okay. Okay. So depending on how you measured your ingredients, your dough is either not very dry, or it's either too dry, or it's too sticky. And we're gonna work through those. Don't add anything to it yet. If you measured your ingredients well, then don't add anything to it, and we're gonna work through it. Because if your dough is like, I have almost all my crumbs mixed in, very little is left, and my dough seems just a touch wet maybe, but it's not sticky. If your dough is a sticky mess right now, like glue sticking to your fingers, add just a touch of flour to it. But if your dough seems a little, if it's not, then let's just keep working with it. And I'll show you how to decipher what's happening. So once I've gotten to a decent ball of dough, you can take it to the table. and push a hole in it. And then take all of your crumbs. Make sure you scrape your bowl. Take all of your crumbs and put it right there in the middle. Put that aside. Now, right now, yes, you can add, if you didn't add your oil earlier, go ahead and add it now. Not a problem. Yeah, if you missed an ingredient, just put it in. Yeah, go for it. Now, right now, your dough, should be kind of soft, probably breaking apart really easily, right? And there's no way we could roll this out into pasta dough. No way. So what we need to do is we need to learn a little bit about flour and gluten, and then we're going to knead the dough and develop that gluten. So in the flour, there are two types of protein. And so in a wheat flour, there's two types of protein. There's actually, like in this bowl here of flour, there's no gluten. And a lot of you have probably heard of gluten. It's the stuff, it's the good stuff if you can eat it. And it holds a lot of things together. So here, there is, in the flour, like I said, there's no gluten in flour. Not until you add water to it, some sort of water. Water comes from the eggs. As soon as you hydrate the flour, then you hydrate the flour and you start to press the flour together, then the protein bonds, once the proteins hydrate and you press them together, they will bond together. Oh yeah. Hey, you guys have a key. My crew is telling me there's one thing I didn't tell you. I don't think I sent the key for your ingredients. P, anything that has a P on it, for those of you who purchase ingredients, anything with a P on it is for pasta. Anything with an S on it is for the cream sauce. So P is in pasta, S is in cream sauce, and then M is marinara, and then V is veg. So P equals pasta, S equals cream sauce, M is marinara, and V is vegetable. I'm gonna write a note. I have this. Yeah, I have a template that I've been trying to take notes on to make each class better. Let me do that. That needs to be L and the key for ingredient. Now, for those of you who purchase ingredients from us, thank you for that. And we did a really, yeah, it should be S is all. I think we did a lot better job, hopefully, fingers crossed, on your ingredients being right this time. All right, I'm gonna keep going. If you have questions, just let the chat room know, and thank you for doing that. So as I was saying, we have this pasta dough, and there's two types of protein, and when you hydrate the proteins and then squeeze them together, they bond together. As soon as they pass by each other, they bond, and they create strands called gluten strands. And that's what makes it all, that's what holds everything together. So right now, this flour is not very strong, because the 00 pizza and pasta flour, it actually has a lot of protein in it. The more the protein, the stronger the flour can be. And so if we did like a little hierarchy of flours, you have cake flour, which is has the lowest amount of protein in it. That's why you can kind of eat a cake or cupcake just with your mouth, or easily cut it with a fork. And then you have bread flour. The bread flour has a lot of protein in it. It can become really strong. When you cook a bread, you probably need to cut it with a knife. You really chew it really hard. And then all-purpose flour is a mixture of the two. And so there's cake flour, bread flour. All-purpose flour is a mixture of the two. The 00 flour fits into the bread flour category, meaning there's a lot of protein in it. And so we're gonna show you how to develop the gluten here in just a second. All right. So if your pasta is too sticky, just wait a minute. Okay. So just wait, and I'm going to walk you through this. So let's do this. Everyone pause. Like what's happening with the dough. Everyone just hang out for just a second and just watch and listen, so that you learn about the dough and you can apply the principles to yours. So this is how we knead the dough here in the classroom. We do it in 3 steps. First, you fold the dough in half, press 1 time, turn the dough. So fold it in half, press 1 time, turn the dough. Fold again in half, press 1 time, turn the dough. Now here's the thing about a dough. This is flour filled with water. And so I think of it like a sponge. If I took this dough, or I took a sponge and you took a sponge and you dipped it in a bowl full of water and you soaked up all the water, and then you take it and you stick it on your table and you just went, yeah, like that. All of you would be soaking wet if you were here live, and water would be everywhere. And I tell you that because your dough reacts the same way. If you press really hard on your dough and push it way down into the table, it's going to make it seem sticky. Moisture is going to come out. You can even see the wetness on my cutting board. And so we don't want to do that. Kneading a dough, any sort of dough, is not about strength. It's just about the proteins passing by each other so they can connect and turn into gluten. So that's how so you fold, press lightly, and turn. Fold, press lightly, and turn. So if your dough is really sticky right now, press lighter and lighter and lighter. So I'm just pressing super light. Fold, press, turn. Fold, press, turn. Fold, press, turn. Fold. Now, mine feels a little sticky right now down here. I'm just picking it up off the cutting board in between each one. Pick it up. Pick it up. And what you need to know is it takes time for the flour to soak up all of the moisture that's inside the dough. So sometimes when it's sticky at first, if you just fold, press, turn, and then go light as a feather, and literally light as a feather. And if you press really hard, it's gonna make it sticky. So press light as a feather. And if you're pressing light as a feather for a good 10, 15 seconds and it's still super sticky, then yes, you can just lightly dust a little bit of flour. But you shouldn't have to do that. Okay, if everything was measured just right, you shouldn't have to do that. Fold, press, turn. Fold, press, turn. Now, the tighter it gets, the lighter you press. The tighter it gets, the lighter you press. All right, we're gonna fold, press, turn. Right, fold, press, turn. There you go. Thank you, Chef Joe, on the close up. Okay. Now, what's happening is the dough. You're going to ask, the next question is probably going to come up like, how do I know when it's done? So right now, if I press my finger on there, okay, I'll do this up high here. I like to do it on a hard surface. Where's my camera? It's over here. There it is. There. Got to get in the right spot. Okay. If I press, see on my fingerprint, you can see the indent is still there on its own. Sometimes press it. See how it stays? Coming out a little bit. Because it hasn't come out all the way, it means my dough is not ready. The gluten is not fully developed. So the more you need, the more proteins bond in the gluten, and the stronger the gluten gets. And keep folding, pressing, turning. Fold, press, turn. Now, if your dough seems really dry right now, is anyone's dough really dry and crackly? Please let Chef Joe know, and I'm going to fix it for you. Okay, you got one. Okay. So I'll be right back. I'll just steal some water out of here. Okay. If your dough is crumbly, yeah, I have a little bit of water in here. You don't want to pour water in here. That would be way too much. All I do is just take my fingers, dip it in there, and then rub it on my dough and knead that in. And it'll get a little like slimy kind of feeling on the outside at first, and then it'll work its way in. It just takes a little bit of time for that, for the water to work in, and then you might do a little bit more. Again, I just tap my fingers in there and just kind of rub some on the outside, because a little bit of water goes a really long way. A little bit of water goes a really long way. Now, the other thing, as I'm kneading, a lot of times what happens when people press really hard, okay, and your dough seems sticky everywhere, right? It's sticking to everything. People start adding a bunch of this flour. That's why I said don't add any flour. They start adding a bunch of dusting flour to their dough. And then what happens is you throw off all the ratios. You have these ratios in the dough of flour, salt, oil, egg yolks, etc. And when you start adding a bunch of things you don't need just because you're kneading too hard, it'll start to make your dough really dry and hard to work with later. So that goes with bread doughs. It goes with a lot of things. Gluten-free flour is like a cruel joke for everybody. You can just give someone who's your gluten-free flour, give it to them and just tell them to knead it until it starts to bounce back, and they'll knead it for like an hour and it'll never bounce back. So don't tell them it's gluten-free and then that's where the joke is. Just kidding. Don't do that. Don't do that. Don't be nice to your family. Be nice to your family. Your gluten-free flour, you can knead it forever and it won't get tighter, because the only thing that's making this tighter is the gluten. So now if you look at my dough right here on the outside, see how it's nice and smooth, right? So just a tip for you gluten-free flour people, I know there's a few of you out there today. You're gonna just mix your dough and later we're gonna roll it out and you're just gonna cut it and you're gonna do the best you can. It probably will not hold together. Some pieces may, some pieces may not. But as long as it's mixed well, you're done. Okay, you can be finished. But for the rest of us, yeah, my dough here, it's nice and smooth looking on the outside. It's beautiful. Get rid of these ugly blue gloves. Okay. But what I want to show you is at this point, if you're kneading too hard, you can actually tear your gluten strand. So if you can see in between my fingers, you see, let's see, it looks like it's ripping. Can you see that? See, it looks like it's ripping. Okay, that's because it's ripping. And so what happens if you knead too hard, you'll rip it apart all the gluten strands that you are forming. So don't do that. The more you knead, the tighter it gets, the lighter you press. The tighter, the lighter. And all we're looking for, I'm barely even touching this dough right now. Barely even touching it. Here, I'm going to press. Get it up close. I need to go a little longer. My fingerprint is still staying there. See my finger impression? So we're going to keep going. So you should be in there kneading your dough right now. Let's just knead our doughs until your fingerprint comes out. And if you feel like you're having a problem with your dough, raise your hand. We'll put you up and I'll take a look and I'll help you fix any of your problems. Ready, set, go. Ready, set, dough. What was I thinking? Ready, set, down. Yes, we need just a little. So my fingerprint's starting to disappear. Any hands? Okay. Melissa, when you come up, you're going to need to accept the request on your screen. My producer is going to make it happen. Making it happen, Ted? Okay. I'm going to pull you up on the big screen. Oh, yeah. Yeah, you need more, flour. Yeah, you definitely need more flour. How did you measure your flour?
With a measuring cup.
Yeah, I would just keep adding flour until it starts to come together a little bit. Yours is definitely too sticky, but it's a simple fix. I would probably start with 2 tablespoons of flour maybe, and then go from there.
Okay, thank you so much.
Keep your video on for just a minute. You get that flour and we'll check it.
Okay.
Yes, and actually, my producer is also one of our great kitchen assistants, Ted. Put a little flour on your hands and rub them together. Okay, and that'll help get some of the sticky off of you so that you can help get the dough going. This is at the point where I use the least amount of fingers, least amount of touching possible until the flour gets in there pretty decent.
How about that camera work?
Yeah. You pun people, you need more flour. K-N-E-A-D, you got it. Ready?
Now we're talking.
Anybody else have some problems? I'm happy to fix them. Any other hands go up, Chef Ted? All right. What's up, Alan? Allie. Oh, what's up, Allie? Okay. My dough is officially done. And so what I want to do, this will dry out if you just let it sit. If you want to wrap it in plastic wrap it whatever you got, but plastic wrap would be the best. I would not put it in a towel because it'll just stick to it. So you have plastic wrap. I guess you could use foil if you wanted to, but parchment or wax paper would be great. Or just even just like a Ziploc bag, stick it on top. Just something plastic would be the best. So I'm just lightly wrapped it in plastic wrap, and we're going to set it aside till a little bit later. All right, so I'm going to give everyone a minute to get caught up. Please, in the chat room, let Chef Joe know that you're caught up and you're ready to do the next thing. And I'm going to get cleaned up too while we're waiting. So you want to do this, get cleaned up. I totally forgot. Hey, you're supposed to get all your stuff together before you start, and I forgot something. So I'll take one of the black ones and a couple cans. So while we're getting ready, we're about to go start cutting and chopping a few things. So you've got, I'm using a wet towel underneath my big cutting board. You could use some wet towel, paper towels, wet tea towel, anything like that underneath your cutting board. Make sure there's something there before we start cutting and chopping. And thank you very much. Set it here a little bit later. And so then, all right, we're gonna start making marinara sauce. And I'm last class I was told I went a little fast. So I just want to make sure, are we good? Let Chef Joe know in the chat room that we're good. Just say good, good, good. If we're ready to start making marinara. I'll do some bowl tricks for you. You like that bowl trick? They're not. Hey, I believe in you. Don't go get Tony's pasta. I believe in you. We're gonna make this happen. It's gonna happen tonight in your kitchen. Okay, here we go. Marinara sauce. So the first thing you probably should do is pull up this guy, your recipe, and look at it, read it. Pour tomatoes into a bowl. I'm about to do that. So step one, well, first you go down your list. Do we have everything? I have my red onion. You probably can't see it. Let me move it over. You have red onion, check. Red onion, check. Garlic, check. Balsamic vinegar, check. Olive oil. We have oregano, basil, crushed red pepper, salt and pepper. I keep with my cooking station here. So this is something I do, and I showed everyone last time. I have one of these here and at home. So you just want to take a peek there. This guy has like cooking utensils. It has spoons. It has olive oil and different oils. It's got my wine. It's got my salt and pepper. And so I keep that one of these, like a tray like this here. And I have a kind of a corner in my house that I do the same thing to have all your stuff together. Okay, there we go. Hey, I want to give a shout out to Lodge. I know there might be some Lodge manufacturing people out there. I just want to give you a shout out and say hi from Chef Jeff here at the classroom. Glad you're with us tonight. Joe, you have questions? Quarter onion is probably like 3 to 4 tablespoons, maybe. A quarter of an onion is probably 3 to 4 tablespoons. All right. So I've got my ingredients. I'm just gonna follow directions instead. Step one was to pour the tomatoes into a bowl. There we go, tomatoes in a bowl. Now, you need one of these guys. If you don't have one of these in your classroom, in your home, then you need one because this will save you money. And at this point of time, it's really important. So it's worth it. A rubber spatula. Because a lot of times people just take like that and they just put it in the sink to be washed. So look at all this good stuff in there. Look at all that. How much do you think that's worth right there? Anybody? Anyone want to tell me? Just guess. Guess in the chat room. What do you think this amount of tomato juice that's left in here is worth? I got 16 cents. Okay, I'll take 16 cents. You're probably, you know what? You're probably pretty right on that one. That's probably pretty good. So you take 16 cents. Doesn't seem like a lot to you, but let's figure out what happens when you waste food. One, it's just a waste. Okay. So, but you take 16 cents worth of tomato sauce and you wash it or you throw it away or something because you didn't use one of these guys, and you end up, it's 16 cents to you. But then I take that 2 or 3 tablespoons of sauce, right? And I put some skill into it, like we're doing tonight, and you put it on a plate at a restaurant. That 16 cents probably turned into $1.60, maybe $2 or $3 worth of skill put on a plate and its value on a plate, right? Then you take that 16 cents that if you actually got to eat that 16 cents worth of tomato sauce, then you wouldn't need to buy another 16 cents to make up for it. So that extra 16 cents that you didn't have to spend could go in a growth stock mutual fund. And some of you have really young, and Dave Ramsey would say, put that in a growth stock mutual fund, spread across 4 types of mutual funds: growth and income, aggressive growth, and international. And right now, actually, you get a really good buy, and in a few years, that 16 cents could be like 16 million because the stock market is still low. Okay. Do not look at your 401ks right now. Do not look at your 401ks right now. Just take a blind eye. There we go. So here we go. We have your tomatoes. I just lightly crushed them up over here, and I don't know what you guys are. You're just making my crew crack up over here. I have no idea what's happening, but they're nonstop laughing right now. Okay. And so there we go. They're all crushed up. Set them aside, just like it says in the recipe. Done. I'm going to take that glove off. All right. So the next thing it says to do is to saute the onion until soft. But we need to go through your ingredients and we need to get them ready. So we're going to take your garlic first thing, and that little guy, like I showed you last week for some of you, that little piece of brown there, cut it off. Just shave it off barely though. Shave it off. So you're going to shave off a little bit of brown. Okay. That's kind of like, the core where it's all attached. Just shave that off. Get rid of it. Keep a clean cutting board. Okay. We're gonna do that, and then I'm gonna take these and we're gonna slice them. We're not gonna pop them. Sometimes people pop them, but actually I want these to be sliced so they look pretty in my marinara sauce. Now, if you can't cut like this, next, I think the 16th or the 14th or something, the Thursday coming up, we are going to have virtual knife skill. Okay? It will be a limited class. We're not going to let a ton of people in because I want to be able to share everyone's video feed and help everybody with their skills along the way. So it'll probably be a little bit limited class, and it's coming up soon. That guy, a little thick, 7.5. Be gentle. Something like this. I'm cutting it nice and thin. But then, Joe, can you get on top of the knife here and show this side here? So when I get to the end, like my thumb is out of the way, I'm down to like my finger. At some point you just let go so that you don't cut yourself. It's okay, just let go. So I'm gonna go nice and thin. And then they're done. I want them to be just like that. So they're gonna go right back onto my tray because this is a great place to keep all of your foods for later. Then you have your onion. Now your onion, you have the core here and stuff. So we're going to cut the core off and cut the other end off. Then you're going to peel it. If there's any bad spots, just cut those off. Like I have a little bad spot on mine. Cut that thing off. A little bit left. No worries. Red onion, sometimes when they get bruised, it releases moisture and then you get this kind of like moldy bad spot. There's nothing wrong with the rest of it. So, all right, keep that guy in there. So then we're gonna dice these, and so to dice it, I'll show you this again in knife skills, but let's just do a quick little dicing lesson for you. Ready? So an onion. Did I do this last time? Okay, so an onion. When you look at it, see, does that look about the same? Okay, does that look about the same? A lot of times people come and they cut sideways, just like this, right? That means they take the knife and they go super dangerous. They turn it sideways and they try to cut like this, okay? That's super dangerous and it's really ineffective. Here's why. So these lines represent the sideways cut. So then when you come back and you cut it like this, right, and you cut it down into its diced pieces, if you look here, when you come, all those they're all different sizes, right? See all the different sizes? So that means all your onions are different sizes and they're gonna cook all at different times. Some will become mush and some won't get done. So instead we wanna cut our onion nice and evenly. So to do that, you guys, as you're, if you're kind of new to knife skills, what you would do is we're gonna just cut down straight down. And you'll still have some uneven pieces on the ends, probably. You still have some unevenness. But for me, because I've been doing this a while, there's my onion. Right. I'm gonna cut in an angle. I'm gonna work my way following the shape of the onion. When you follow the shape of the onion and then we'll cut it, most of mine are close to the same size. I'll show you what that looks like here in a second. It gives you just a more even cutting. So for you, just go straight up and down with your knife, straight up and down like this, all right? Straight up and down. For me, I'm gonna come in an angle. I'm gonna cut an angle, working my way all the way to the top. And I am leaving just a little bit connected here at the back to hold my onion together. You notice I peeled my onion, I got rid of all the trash because I don't want the onion peel and the dirt that's in that core to be part of my cutting. So I don't want that at all. So I'm gonna cut down, it fell apart, that's fine. Keep cutting and let go when you feel like it's getting dangerous. Turn it sideways, line everything up and cut through all the way this time. And you have this nice diced onion. When you get down to the end, you kind of have like this mixed, mash of unmatched onion. So just try to get it together and just chop it up. All righty. And then you grab it, turn it, and go back through one more time. If any of you started doing this thing, you're lucky I can't see you because I come after you. Okay? Don't do that. But why, Chef Jeff? Why? Because it bruises your onion. The better your knife skills you get, the less you'll do the choppy thing. Okay? Hey, come on, just admit it. If you're a choppy person, just tell Chef Joe in the chat room. We will not, there'll be no shame here. We may make a few comments. No, we'll be nice. If what? I went to art school. Well, okay, how we doing? You ready? Let Chef Joe know in the chat room. Are we ready to start cooking marinara? No more choppy. Never again choppy. I choppy your head. Amanda, she was a choppy. And then Amanda, did we solve your problems now forever? No more choppy. Ready, choppy? I'm ready too. Let's choppy. I can't help you with your crying, okay? I didn't realize we were getting so emotional with all this cooking stuff. So okay, so a couple of the cutting. Okay. Got it. All right, well, we are going to continue on. All right, I know some of you may not be quite at the same spot because you may be chopping more ingredients if you're cooking for more people. I understand that. So what we're going to do is we're going to start cooking. So if you notice, I've got my pan here. Now, let me tell you, depending on how much you're making, you can pick the size of your pan. I'm gonna use a bigger pan just so you can see what I'm doing. But if you want to use a smaller pan, that actually works really great if you're making a small amount. Of course, the larger amount you have, then there you go. Then the bigger the pan you use. So So Susan, for your tomatoes, you don't have the San Marzano tomatoes. Those were actually a canned tomato. The tomatoes that you saw is the San Marzano tomatoes. It's just a style of tomato that's imported from Italy, and they're a very good quality tomato that we've been using a long time. And so, but they are a canned tomato, and you can use those. That's what we're using. Hey, if you don't have any of this ingredients, just put some ragu or some Prego. Just heat up some Prego. And, yeah, what's the rest? It is 10 ounces. So yeah, you're looking like just a little over a cup for 2 people. All right. Now, hey, if you know how to saute, like last week, if you know how to saute, tell everyone in the chat room. How do we saute? Anybody? Going once? Going twice? Nobody? What do I do? What am I supposed to do? How do I saute? Anyone know? Come on. Yeah, Lynette. Hi, Lynette. Okay, we can start with prizes maybe. Okay, so if you notice, you see here, I've got my flame on. So my flame is on, my pan is on. We're going to heat the pan. This is a very thick pan on the bottom, so it takes a little bit to get hot. So the 3 steps we have, a lot of you know it, but some of you are new. Some people have come from all over the country to join us tonight. And so we saute in 3 steps. You first heat the pan, so put your hands up, put them up. You first heat the pan, then you heat the fat, then you heat the food. Heat the pan, heat the fat, heat the food. We do a little dance here. Heat the pan, heat the fat, heat the food. Oh, I know, it looks funny. Heat the pan, heat the fat, heat the food, but you're gonna keep doing the dance with me. Ready? You doing the dance with me? Hey, raise your hand. If you're doing the dance, raise your hand. We're gonna put a couple of you up. We'll dance it together like we did last week. Any hands raised? Uh-oh, how many went up? Wow, like 15 hands went up. Y'all are fantastic. Come on, let's do this. So a lot of people are coming up. Oh, Kelly's doing it. Yeah, heat the pan, heat the fat, eat the food. Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. So while I'm waiting for people to come up, so my flame is on, the pan is on. Now, how do you know when your pan gets hot? That's a popular question. So right now, the flame, when I just have the flame, I'm standing over it. Oh, the warmth feels so good on my face. Your face is very sensitive. It's a great place to kind of, don't stick your face in the flame. Don't do that. But I can just feel the heat radiating off from the burner to my face. When I put the pan on, all of a sudden now there's like a cold spot. It kind of blocks the heat. And as soon as I start to feel the heat starting to radiate back up, I'm starting to feel the heat radiate right now. I feel some warmth on my face again. That means my pan is hot. All right, so we got some other hands up. All right, Carol, I'll talk to you later.
Ciao.
I'm not sure. All right, ciao. So heat the pan. My pan is hot. So heat the pan, and then I'm going to take just a little bit. So you have some cooking oil that you probably had measured out already, and that's perfectly fine. We're going to use just a little bit of that. Heat the pan. So once it's hot all the way through, then you're going to put some fat in there. All right. Heat the pan. Let the fat get hot. All right. You can see the shimmering a little bit of the oil in the pan. That means it's nice and hot. And then we're going to heat the food. So it says for the tomatoes, you did that. So saute the onion until it's soft. Then we're going to add the garlic. So take the onion here. Be really careful putting your onion in. So you don't. When you're putting food in the pan, get closer. Closer is better. Look, I can put my hand here and I'm not burning it. If you do it from up here, you splash oil all the way. Like the higher you go, the farther oil splashes and people get burned. Yes, I use part of the oil, just enough to kind of coat the bottom of the pan. We'll put the rest in a little bit later. Okay. So now I'm going to switch to a spoon. Love that sound. Love that smell. Okay. That sound is the sound of a great saute. As soon as you put your veggies in, you should hear that sizzling sound, because that's what saute means. It means to jump, and it means that you hear that sizzle. Oh, yes. So, Anthony asked me, how hot? It's hot enough that you hear a sizzle. If you don't hear a sizzle, your pan's not hot enough. You want to turn it up. Okay? So I don't like to teach you, I don't like to teach you high, medium, or low temperatures. Sometimes I'll say them, but very rarely. And here's why. Because everyone's BTU outputs, their pans, everything is different at your house than it is at mine. So instead, I teach you to what to look for. This one right now, we're looking to hear the sizzling sound. You're looking to see the, see that steam coming off the pan, right? And you can actually see the bubbles. I don't know if you can see in my pan a little bit. You can see some movement. So you can see some steam, some bubbles jumping. That means we're sauteing, right? And I can smell that food is cooking. And so those are the things I'm looking for with cooking. So there we go. Now we're going to cook your onions until they start to soften some. And so if you just look in, what you're looking for is you can pull one out and you can press on it. Or you can, is it soft? No, not really. All right. Is it they starting to turn clear? No, not just yet. They still see some whiteness there. If you notice, a lot of my sizzle, like my heat's on high, but my sizzle is gone because a lot of it has been absorbed by the onions. So I'm going to add just a little bit more. Can you hear that now? Can you hear it? Here, a little bit of my sizzle came back. And so my onions are about halfway. So I am ready to add my garlic. So scoop the garlic up and put it in there. Then I'm going to read the next part of the recipe. The next part, it says to deglaze with balsamic vinegar. So the balsamic vinegar, if you ever had a balsamic reduction is where you basically evaporate all of the moisture out of the vinegar and you're left with this really sweet, black, rich sauce. Like a lot of times it's like the consistency of honey and people use it to drizzle on plates to make things pretty. It's also very sweet. Most vinegars, when you cook out or evaporate the vinegar, they'll turn sweet. And so that's what we're actually using the balsamic vinegar for in this one. We're using it to, one, add a little bit of flavor, but two, we're using it for the sugar because tomatoes are very acidic. And so we're going to use the balsamic vinegar to balance the acidity as long as we get rid of the vinegar part. And so here's how we're going to do that. Now my onions and garlic, I was talking, starting to get, my stuff's getting a little dark. Okay. You can also add sweetness by caramelizing your onions in here a little bit if you wanted to. Mine got a little bit dark. I just kind of smell a little toasted on my garlic, which is just fine. But now, be careful when you do this because it's going to want to steam up on you. So kind of lean back a little bit and just don't be scared. Don't pour from here. You'll burn yourself. Get real close and just pour it in all at once and get out of the way. Okay, and let that steam off. And a lot of moisture now has evaporated. Whew. You can smell the vinegar. Okay. You basically want to take the balsamic vinegar, you probably had like this much, and you cook it down until it's almost just a little bit left. I have only a little bit left of mine. And then from there, it says to add, now the deglazing, what happened, if there's anything stuck to the bottom of the pan earlier, the balsamic vinegar would clean the pan. It would deglaze because it would, sometimes there's stuff on the bottom that gets stuck to the pan. And so this is deglazing or unsticking everything from the pan. You put your tomatoes in. Then use that rubber spatula. Save that 16 cents, y'all. Hashtag 16 cents. Just kidding. What's our hashtag? Okay. Hashtag fond of fond is one we're going to be using often. So if you want to see what happened to other classes, hashtag fond, F-O-N-D, of fond, F-O-N-D. And so this one's hashtag possibilities. Look at that. I mean, you might as well just put that back on the shelf. It's so clean. Now, mix that in. Now, here's where you need to use some of your other senses. You're going to use your sight, smell, taste, sound, and touch. Use those senses in order to kind of make this taste great. Because all of you will have a different acidity level depending on the tomatoes that you bought. You will all have a different sodium level, salt level, because different canned tomato companies will use different amounts. And so I know this one pretty well, so because we use these a lot. So I am going to add a touch of salt to mine. I'm going to add a touch of pepper, and I'm going to go ahead and add the rest of the ingredients. So if you like it a little spicy, then use all the red pepper flakes. If you don't, then don't. Okay, it's up to you. My basil, my oregano, I'm a big oregano fan, so if I was at home, I'd probably add a little extra oregano. That's one of my favorite spices. I use dry spices because most of you will have these at home. And so here's what you need to know about dry spices. There's a couple kind of cool things about, like, actually, I should say these are not spices. These are herbs. Herbs are green leafy things. So cilantro, basil, oregano, those types of things. Spices are chilies and peppercorns, right? And so they're two different things. And so the herbs are water soluble, meaning all their flavor comes out in water. Spices like chili powders, chilies and peppercorns, their flavor comes out in oil. They're oil soluble. So like maybe we'll do a chili one day. And so the chili, you have to dissolve the chili powder in some sort of oil for it to really work well. A lot of times you add chili powder when you're sauteing because that's where the oil is. And then, so here, if you have fresh herbs, so think about a dry herb. A dry herb needs to cook for a little while to get its flavor out. Right now, I'm gonna pause. You see, I'm boiling a lot right now. I'm gonna turn my heat down to a simmer. So you want to bring your pot to a rolling boil, lots of movement, right? Lots of movement. And then once you do that, then you turn it down, slow down the bubbles, just adjust your heat until you get slow bubbles, right? And when you get slow bubbles, that's a simmer. I'm going to keep adjusting my heat till I get to a simmer. So it's calming down. And raw tomatoes, you just cook them a little longer because if you have raw tomatoes, you're gonna have a lot more moisture. Just cook them a little longer and it'll work out just fine. Now, for some of you asked, you still had some olive oil left over. Yes, you did. Olive oil in this particular recipe, it serves two purposes. The one is to help you saute. You need that fat to transfer heat, and that's what fat is for. But then on the second purpose, in this particular one, since we are cooking some Italian food, then we want to add oil to it. You don't have to add oil. This now becomes like a seasoning, just like salt and pepper and everything else we're putting in here. I'm just adding olive oil because I like the flavor of olive oil, and it'll enhance the flavor of this marinara sauce. Now, if you have fresh oregano, you're probably going to use about half. So a dried spices, they will, a lot of times because they're dried and they're concentrated, they'll be about twice as strong per volume as fresh spices. So or fresh herbs. Sorry, I keep using the wrong word. So you want to use probably about half the oregano and then adjust your flavor from there. So I have all my ingredients in. You see my tray is empty except for stuff that just needs to go in the trash. All right. And then I'm on a nice simmer, so you can see the slow bubbles in here. That's exactly where I want to be. Send your kids to have your kids start cleaning everything, right? That's what we have kids for. And so put the kids to work. Parents, you should be sitting down drinking a glass of Fantini about right now. And the kids should be doing all the cleanup. I'm talking about. That does smell so good. This is what's really cool. And I think this is what's neat about what we're doing here, this virtual class versus doing it like, doing like just watching a YouTube video. Because we thought about that. We thought, let's just do YouTube, like build our YouTube station, which we're going to do. But us being able to do this together, we have the same sights and smells and sounds going on. And I just think that's exciting. So there we go. And all right. So I've still got some big chunks of tomato. That's fine. As they cook, they will start to break down. And so that's fine. You just keep letting it cook a little bit. I'm going to take this marinara sauce and move it to my burner back there and just let it simmer. Make sure and take your utensil out of the pot. Anytime you leave a utensil in the pot, it will get hot. And then you'll grab it and you'll burn your hands. So I always it makes more of a mess. I know, just take it out and sit on the counter and just set it on the side, and that will work just fine. No, I would not cover the pot, because what's going to happen when you cover the pot is it's going to just boil harder. Now, if you wanted to, you could put a lid on the pot and just crack it to allow some of that steam to come out. and then it'll keep the splashing from like splashing all over your counter and all over you, just kind of to protect yourself. But I would not put a lid closed, because when a lid is closed, the pressure will build up, the heat will build up, and it's hard to keep it at a low simmer, because tomatoes can burn really easy. You want to stir often, and so in the chat room, just remind me every couple minutes to stir my stuff, okay? Because I will probably forget. And you want to stir it, and then from here on out, like after about 5 minutes, all the flavors are blended. And after that, you get to choose how long you want to cook it. If you want to cook it longer because you want a deeper, richer, thicker sauce, do that. If you like it a little bit runnier, you can even add a little water to it. And if you wanted to, or some more tomato juice if you wanted to, you could do that. So at this point, after about 5 minutes, the flavors will be blended together well, and you get to adjust the marinara sauce by how you personally like it at home. Okay? So let us know in the chat. Let us know how you're doing. And I don't want to. I'm gonna get set up to start doing the next sauce. But let us know how you're doing. I want to make sure that you're kind of done with that, or starting to simmer and you're moving it to the side. Let someone stir it. We're gonna be moving on to the next thing. I don't want to rush into it, so please let me know. I mean, you're giving Joe carpal tunnel over here without the chat room. He's like nonstop, and which is pretty awesome. Oh, absolutely, Amanda, you're absolutely right. This is definitely better than store-bought sauce, and it's simple to make. What I like about my marinara sauce is it's simple. You don't have to have all these fresh ingredients. You can pull a can out. I mean, you can pull canned tomatoes out and use them. But if you have the opportunity to get the San Marzano tomatoes, they're just a really good quality tomato that used to be hard to find, but now Walmart carries them, Publix carries them, most of your major grocery stores carry them. Chef goes, he's a stirring back there. Okay. Thank you, Jasmine. I'm stirring. Do I ever add wine? So Elizabeth says, do you ever add wine to the marinara sauce? Yes. Wine is one of those. You can definitely add it. We would have added the wine probably in foregone the balsamic vinegar. So I would have done wine or vinegar, depending on what your choice is and what kind of wine. Really, whatever you like to drink. Any red wine would go well. Something that has a little less tannins in it would probably be better, like more modern wine would go well. When I say that, in the modern winemaking, they actually pull the skins out of the wine a little sooner, and and so then you don't have that puckering tannin as a classic wine would have. But you could use something like that, like a Pinot Noir, would be a little bit sweeter probably. And yes, and then I'm getting questions over here. Seasoning. Here, you just want to season it till you like it. Again, all of your tomatoes, some of your ingredients will be different than mine, and especially the quality of the canned tomato will definitely determine how much salt and pepper and things you add in order to make it fantastic. So I see that. Do you ever add Parmesan cheese to the sauce? No, I would not add Parmesan cheese to the sauce at this point, because Parmesan cheese would burn. So I like to top with Parmesan cheese, but Parmesan, when you cook it for long periods of time, it does not, it gets gritty and mealy. It gets gritty and mealy. So actually, great story. When I first went to culinary school, so you have to know a little bit about me. Some of you don't know anything about me, but when I first went to culinary school, I knew how to do pancakes and grilled cheese. That was pretty much, I'd been cooking for a couple of years, so I worked at a couple restaurants, but basically my knowledge of cooking was very, very limited, especially in the cooking fundamentals and principles. And that's why I love them so much, teaching them now, is because of that. But when I went to culinary school, I was there for just like a month or two, and people started, they advertised that you could try out for the competition team. And so I was like, heck yeah, I'm in this. I tried out for the competition team, and it was really neat. They give you a tray of ingredients, like you saw earlier, like this. They'd start you at your table, and about 15 minutes apart from, in 15-minute heats, they would start you. And so I was probably only the third or fourth person to go. And I got my ingredients. I have the basics of cooking. Like, I just learned how to saute and how to braise and roast and steam. I mean, I just learned those concepts within the past couple weeks. And so I got my tray. They give you 20 minutes to look at it. And then you have to write a menu. I wrote a menu out of what I was going to do. And after 20 minutes, if you're not using an ingredient, they take it from you. And so during that 20 minutes, I remember the instructor coming up, and you could ask them questions. And I said, hey, what, like what are these? Now this is Parmesan, but it was, and he said, those are lentils. I was like, okay, cool. And he walked away. Then I caught his attention a couple minutes later. I was like, hey, so what are lentils? Because I had no idea. And he kind of laughed at me and just walked away. And then he came back a minute later. He said, do you really not know what lentils are? I said, not a clue. Not a clue. He said, they're beans. I said, okay, cool. You can take them. I don't even know how to cook with them, so you can take them. And they got taken off my tray. But I remember making a Parmesan cream sauce. And I remember cooking this Parmesan cream sauce and cooking it with the Parmesan in it. And when I got done, it was so gritty and mealy that I had to strain it. I had to strain. Now, after I strained it, the sauce had a great flavor left over from the Parmesan, but it was almost inedible with the Parmesan in it. So there we go. And that's my story. I'm sticking to it. And that's one thing I hope. Yeah, ask me some questions. I love to tell stories. A lot of you know that. Okay, so Molly, you couldn't find bacon. Going to use chicken breast. Any recommendations? Spices on the chicken. You know what? For this one, just simple salt and pepper and olive oil would be perfect for this one. I don't. What's that? Oh, I went to culinary school. For those of you who asked, I went to culinary school at the only good culinary school out there, Johnson and Wales. If you know people from other culinary schools, just tell them that they're just playing second fiddle. But I'm just kidding. So I went to Johnson and Wales back in the day when it was in Charleston, South Carolina. Give me a shout out for Charleston. Woo, woo. I know, Carrie, that's where you're at. And it was a great time. I spent 2 years there. And then that was, I know I don't look it, this young face and all, but it was 24 years ago that I went to culinary school. Yeah, 20. Wow. I went when I was 12. Okay, are we ready to start cooking? You're probably ready for me to stop talking, telling stories. Bonnie, the girls are great. We're having such a great time at home, just doing family stuff together. Hey, right now, give your kids a hug. If you're at home with your kids, just give them a hug, because if you're doing this together, I think it's fantastic. Now, we ready to start cooking? Okay, we're gonna start cooking your sauce. So I'm gonna talk to you about a couple of things. So again, I have my ingredients measured out, and I have my Parmesan is grated. I have my heavy cream right here. I have my dusting flour, my pancetta. If you don't have pancetta, use bacon. If you don't have bacon, you don't have to use anything. It's just an addition to what we're doing. We have another onion that we're going to chop up, and we've got our asparagus. So let's work our way through this. You can use broccoli. You use any vegetable that you want to. You can use it, right? In this one, peppers would be good in it. Broccoli would be fine. So not a problem with any of those. So we're going to start with the onion again. So the onion, again, you probably see that the core. Hey, can you switch my videos for me? Okay, you can see the core right here. And so what I'm going to do, see, that got to come off. All kinds of dirt in there, as I mentioned earlier. So there, I'm going to cut that off, cut this end off. Anytime something is round, like if you're cutting a whole onion, if it's round, you always want to cut a flat spot so it can sit down and be sturdy so that doesn't move around. Then I'm going to peel it. Get rid of my trash. And the recipe is not 100% accurate on this one. So I'll walk you through it. Get a pen and we'll fix it. All right. So the red onion, it says finely chopped. So I'm going to do the same thing earlier. I'm going to cut mine real close together. Right. The closer together. The goal when you're cutting an onion is only cut two ways. You cut here, turn it, cut the other, and you should be done. So that means when you're cutting right here, you need to choose how thick, right? You need to choose the thickness that you want so that when you turn it and then you cut across, you get to choose the thickness on that side, and then you should be done. That should be done. All right. So this is my stuff that this will get rid of that. Doesn't look good. Milk will work. Especially if it's like a whole milk would be great. Yeah, whole milk would be a great, would work just fine. You're gonna need a little bit more flour. So, and I'll show you how to fix that, but you probably need to, you probably almost need to double your flour if you're gonna use milk instead. Say that again. Okay, so why red onion is not yellow or white? Because I like the flavor of red onion. I think it's just a flavor preference. So you can use whatever onion that you have, but shallots work great, red onions work great, but I like the flavor of red onion, so that's what I'm using. Here's our pancetta. So pancetta is just Italian cured bacon. It's not smoked. It does need to. I think it's supposed to cook it though. I mean, it's not ready to eat, and so we're going to sanitize our cutting board after this. So I'm going to dice my pancetta up. Now, sometimes if you're struggling cutting through the pancetta, that means your knife is dull. Use cut slowly. Things that can really get you are fatty pieces. Like sometimes if your knife is really dull and you're trying to cut through something that's fatty, your knife will slip because it doesn't want to go through. So that could be a dangerous part. Be careful. So again, there I've got my pancetta. Just sanitize my cutting board. So wipe my knife off. Wipe the cutting board down. Yes. Hey, everyone's got some shaky cheese in the door of your fridge, right? We call it shaky cheese. The shaky cheese, the Parmesan, fine. Use whatever you got. You can use any cheese you've got. You can use white cheddar. You can use some mozzarella, whatever you want to. I don't care. Okay. That's what's great about this is I don't know what you have at home. There's no shame. Just make it taste great. Now we have our asparagus. Let me show you a couple things about asparagus. As you can see, we've got different sizes. Okay. This is pencil asparagus, right? And you can see that it'll bend nice and easy. Like it's bending nice and easy here, and here, and here. It doesn't start getting hard until about right there. Okay. So let's make a mark. Right there. That's where the asparagus started getting kind of hard. Thank you, Chef Joe. Stirring my stuff. Now this is a little thicker, right? Thicker the asparagus. So, right, the thicker, right there. Ooh, right there is the bend. This is really great. We don't always have both in-house at the same time. So as the asparagus grows more, what we call the woodiness, the kind of hard outer fibrous outside, it starts to make its way further and further up the asparagus. And so you can't use as much of it unless you peel it. So a nice thin pencil asparagus, you can use almost the whole thing and it'll be easy edible. How do you know? You just take a piece, eat it. And if you can chew through it nicely, then it's edible. And if you take a piece of this, a thicker one, and eat it, and if you're doing that and it's like fibrous and like, I don't know, like just want to spit it out, well, go spit it out because it's really not edible at that point. We have the two types, and I'm going to show you how to use them. So if you have the ones that are thicker, what you want to do is grab a peeler and take a peeler and peel. I like to put it flat on the cutting board and peel and turn. If you try to do it with it off the cutting board, you'll just break it as you're trying to push on it. You'll just bend. There's nothing to work with as far as leverage. So put it flat and peel some of that fibrous woodiness off the outside. And now look. See, it's bending all the way down here, where the other one broke way up here. So we're getting more use out of it because we've taken some of the fibrous stuff off the outside. I always like to peel them first, and then I'll cut them. So I'd peel a few. There you go. I'm going to set some of these back. I'm not going to use them all right now. Peel yours. If you have thick asparagus, real gentle. And then after they're peeled, you're still probably going to find like the average bend is probably about right there. You're going to see that. So right, it's kind of bending more 3/4 of the way down. And I will cut off the hard parts, and you could like set that aside, and you could use that for making some soup or something like that. But for us, what we want to do is I actually like to take the asparagus and line it up with all the heads touching my knife, so they're all nice little line. And we're going to cut the tips off. That's probably about, I know it's hard to see, maybe half a finger length right there, maybe half a finger. Cut them off, and then take this and cut it nice and thin. The thinner you cut it, the more edible, the easier it'll be to eat. So cut it nice and thin. It allows you to use more of the asparagus. There's a lot of flavor in the stem of the asparagus, and the stems are pretty, but there's a lot of. All right, so down here you can hear the popping going on. There's probably some hard pieces. I'm not going to use this. I'll just get rid of it. So let's get more asparagus. Now, I have way too much asparagus on my tray. We just put it up there so you can see it, then get rid of some of it. Now, your cutting board is not a storage facility, so make sure to move your stuff. Ooh, that marinara sauce is looking good, Chef Joe. So can I have that for a second? Let me grab a hot pad. Sorry. No, I said hot. You trivet, yeah. I said hot pad. That's what I meant. Okay. And okay, we're gonna take a pause and look at our marinara sauce. Now, this is how I like my marinara sauce. I like it to where you can part the Red Sea, right? And so I think about, and this is especially true like if I'm doing a deep dish pizza or something where you just want to talk about, we're just gonna talk about water content. You can learn a little cooking principle right here. So this is pretty cool. When we first started, which I should have showed you, but you can probably have seen in your own, that when you first start, when you would stir, that like, let's get this. When you'd stir, all of a sudden, the sauce would just take over that space. It would just go swoop right in. But that's because there's a lot of moisture in there. So how you can tell how much moisture you have just by how the sauce is reacting in the pot. But here, when I scrape across, it's holding on both sides. Just like when the Israelites were stopped at the Red Sea and they needed to go through, that God let the waters hold up on both sides and let the Israelites go through on dry ground. And then after they got through, he just take care of all those Egyptians, right? And it took care of business. So I think about that a lot. In a lot of sauces, you can scrape the side and just see how quickly it closes up, and you can judge how much moisture content is there, and you get to decide do you want your sauce to be soupy on your plate, or do you want it to hold in place? And you can right now my sauce is holding in place. If I put that on a plate, it wouldn't move. So I could do a really nice plate presentation that way. So there you go, the Red Sea. Got it. Yes, if it's too thick, you can add a little water. You can add some chicken stock to it. You could add some more tomatoes to it. It's up to you. Anything liquid that you think would complement, add a splash of wine to it would be great too. But not if you're cooking for the kiddos, okay? Even though I will not say yes or no how much one of my daughters likes bourbon. Okay, just saying. No, don't put your bacon in the oven. We're going to cook it here in a minute. So I'm going to cut some more tips, and then we are going to cut these guys up a little bit too. Now we'll have plenty of asparagus. That right there. All right. We gotta get this in pasta making, so we're gonna get this sauce going on, and then we'll get to the main event. So my tips are gonna go over there. Beautiful thing. I'm gonna grab my next pan. Let me wipe down. Yes. Just cook it. If your marinara is too thin, you just cook it longer. And depending, mine got thick because I used a big pan, right? So there's more surface area to let moisture go. But if you use a pan that's like this, a smaller pan is taller, it's just going to take longer. So just keep it on low or keep it on a, just keep it with slow bubble, and that will allow your sauce to just basically evaporate moisture. And when you evaporate moisture, it'll get thicker. It just takes a little bit of time. It's all about time on that. Great questions, y'all. Great questions. Wow, Chef Joe, I see like 41 questions answered or something over there. I've been answering questions like crazy. Fantastic. So now what I need? I need this Q&A. Okay, y'all, I need to saute. So now all of you know how now, right? So what do we do to saute? I'm not doing it. You know what? I'm not cooking until you tell me what to do. What do I do first? How do I saute? Nothing. None yet. Heat the pan. I'll turn my heat on. I'm sorry. Heat my pan. Okay. And we want to get your recipe out, and let's read your recipe. It says to cook the, so step number 1 says cook the pancetta. Was everything else ready? So I have my cream. Yes. Parmesan. I have everything. It says cook the pancetta or the bacon till it's half done. Now, the pancetta, we're actually going to cook it till it's kind of done and crispy. And so we're going to cook it a little longer. So I'm going to heat the pan. And then we'll drain off some of the fat if we feel like we need to. It just depends on how much fat is it left in the pan. Because, you know, pancetta or bacon, I mean, there's good flavor in there. Okay? So what's our ETA to eat? I don't know. It depends on how fast you cook. So we should be eating hopefully at 7:30. You know, 7:15, 7:30. So heat the pan. Now, in this particular one, the fat and the pancetta, or the fat and the food are the same thing. So the pancetta has fat in it. You hear the sizzle? Yeah. I'm talking about. Heat the pan. The fat and the food are the same thing right now. Put them in there. Grab a spoon. We're just gonna cook it. Now we're gonna see how much fat comes out of this pancetta, and then we may adjust a little bit along the way if we need something. I'm gonna clean my station up. Make some room. This pasta is coming soon, right? And we're going, pasta, it's coming soon. And so start making some room on your table. As soon as this sauce is done, we're going to start like spreading out and making our pasta. Okay. Oh, the pancetta, it smells so good. Now, if you're doing the pancetta, if you look in here, there's not a lot of fat coming out of it. So I am going to add just a little bit of fat to help facilitate it getting cooked. Okay. Stir it and just let it sit. Let some of let some browning happen. You want some browning to happen. Open up my cream. Good time if you want to ask me questions, because we're just cooking, right? We're just letting something get cooked. Yes, dice your pancetta. Yep, you need to dice your pancetta, absolutely. Oh, we still gotta do braised veggies too. I forgot about that. Okay. I'm gonna heat down just a hair. Oh, sorry about that. Move the camera. Okay. So I'm getting a little color in the bottom of my pan. It's a little dark. So I'm gonna turn my heat down. Stay in control. Don't burn anything right now. Dark color is okay, but we don't want it to turn black. Once something turns black, it gets bitter. And once it gets bitter, it never gets better. Some of you know that one. For those of you that are new, just let that sink in. Once you make them bitter, your friends, your kids, your spouse, they never get better. So just be nice to people, especially right now. Everyone needs a little bit of love right now. So my pancetta is getting kind of crispy. I get some crispiness. Now, at this point, I'm going to go ahead and add in my asparagus. And no, I'm not. I'm going to take my pancetta. I'm going to pull my pancetta out. I have a plate here with some paper towel on it. You could get some plate with a paper towel ready for you. We're going to pull. Now, you can let it go a little longer. I think mine's looking pretty nice and crispy. So it's going to go ahead and come out. Now, my pan is still hot already, so I'm going to add a little bit more fat. Just a little bit of fat came off the pancetta, but really there wasn't a whole lot. And then go ahead and add my onions. I'll go ahead and add the asparagus. Not the tips, though. I've saved the tip for later. They're going right at the end. So I have the asparagus, sliced up asparagus, the onions. Let me know how you're tracking. Let Chef Joe know in the chat room how you're tracking along. Now, I can tell here that my onions are screaming. You're going like, there's like no sizzling going on. So I need to add a little bit more fat. Now I hear some sizzling. If you're still on the bacon or pancetta, you probably can pull it out. Actually, if you're doing bacon, you can leave the bacon in the whole time. So if you're doing bacon, you can go ahead and just add your onions and your asparagus or your vegetable to the bacon and leave the bacon in, right? So it'll all get cooked. So you're just trying to cook your bacon till it's like half to 3/4 done. The pancetta, I cooked mine till it was just about crispy. Let's taste it. It's good. So you should all be about where I'm at. You should be able to add your veggies, your onions and such to this pan. I'll give you another 30 seconds or so before I do the next step. Okay? My crew is over here eating all kinds of fun stuff, and I'm slaving away on the stove while they're eating all the goods. They ate the left Twixes, so they left the right ones for me. Hey, if anyone is out there from Mars, I'm just giving you a shout out. Thanks for like the 60 pounds of chocolate that you gave us. I mean, for real. Okay, y'all, we are moving on. You have your flour here. This is just a little bit of flour that we're gonna dust. This is called songé. Everyone say it with me, songé. Okay, you want to songé, which means to lightly dust. You're gonna dust this with flour, and what that's gonna do, it's gonna soak up some of the fat, and it's gonna make a little roux in there. You won't be able to see it, but it's gonna make a little bit of a roux. For those of you who were on last week, it'd be very similar to when we're making our gumbo. We have our roux in there. Cook that for just a second. Now, I've got a wooden spoon here, and I like a wooden spoon because you've got all this stuff sticking to the bottom of the pan. Okay? If you use a rubber spatula, like it's not hard enough to get all the stuff off the bottom. So I use a wooden spoon and scrape some of that stuff up before it gets too dark. There's some flavor in there. I want it. And at this point, you could, it's not on your recipe on this one, but you might need something to deglaze the pan. So you could use a little bit of white wine. If you don't have white wine for this one, what else would be good? Even just a touch of water. A touch of water would be helpful to kind of get some of that stuff off. My pan was nice and dark. Okay, so a touch of water would help. A little white wine, and then we're going to temper in your cream. Your cream, that means you're just going to add a little bit. Tempering is where you bring two things together that don't normally mix, and so you want to add them until it gets all blended in. If you see here, I've got some white and some dark spots. Mix it until they all are nice and smooth. Okay. Add a little bit more. Now, when see how you can see the white and then the darker spot over here. You want to mix them until they're smooth, all completely mixed together. And look at that. And you're gonna add a little more. And add a little bit more. That's looking good. Bring it to a simmer. I'm gonna turn my heat all the way up right now, so I can bring it to a simmer pretty quickly, or a boil, I should say. I'm gonna bring it to a boil, which means hard, fast bubbles. Hard, fast bubbles. Bring it to a boil all the way up. Flour does not thicken, does not reach its full potential until it thickens. Flour does not reach its full potential until it boils. And so it needs to get to that boiling state so that the flour will reach its full thickening capacity, and then we'll adjust our stuff from there. So what I have left is my crispy pancetta, and I have my asparagus tips. I'm going to take a little bit of my pancetta and go in to flavor the sauce. I'm going to leave some of it out for garnish a little bit later. So that's going to go in. I'm going to leave some of this out. These asparagus will go in right before we eat, so they won't take very long to cook. I don't want them to turn all brown and stuff. Some of the stuff in here, if you let it cook too long, it'll turn brown. So as soon as your cream sauce comes to a simmer, a rolling boil, turn down to a simmer for just a minute, and then it's done. We'll add Parmesan. Oh, we have Parmesan left. You have Parmesan left, so put that on your plate over here. You can see Parmesan, asparagus, and pancetta. All right, I'm gonna add a little bit of salt, a little bit of pepper, and I'll taste it a little bit later to adjust that a little bit. So mine has come to a rolling boil. We're gonna turn it off. Okay, it's pretty much done. Put that aside. Get cleaned up. We got one more thing to cook, and then we're in the pasta. I know you're like, I thought this was pasta class. Well, pasta is actually pretty simple, and so it has to have good things to go with. All right, so that's what we're going to do. We're making some good things to go with it. Our last one before we start getting to the pasta part. So we're just making some veggies. Okay. So carrot. I like to take my carrot and put the tip on the table, right? And then take my peeler and you just peel down towards the table. You can hit that table as hard as you want to. It's like your stopper. Do that. Flip it over. Do the other side. There's my carrot. I have my leek. And the leek, I'm going to cut the end off, barely shave it off. You know the leek, use whatever you've got. And we're going to cut the leek in half. And I want you to look inside. Okay? Look inside. See all that? See all that dirt? That's no good. Dirt, sand, no bueno. All right, we don't want all that stuff. We're going to take your leek over to the sink and you're going to wash it. I want you to wash it really good. I want you to feather out all the little pieces, each one as you're washing it. So, ready, set, go. I'm doing mine. I'm going to do mine right now. Get your sink, open up all those layers, get the water deep inside there, get all the sand out. Nobody wants to crunch on sand when you're eating a sauce. Oh, I hate that actually. Two things I don't like when I'm cooking. One, sand in my sauce, or sand in anything really, that crunchy sand, or like the shell on a hard-boiled egg, just like a little piece. Oh, so gross. Hey, so you know what? What don't you like? It's okay. Tell us in the chat room. Look at that dirt. All right. What kind of things you just can't stand? Texture, some sort of taste. You know, let me know. I want to know. I want to know what you don't like about cooking right now. Peanut butter. I'm gonna cut you off right now if you don't like peanut butter. That's my favorite thing on the planet. And this is my show, so I get to cut you off if I want to. The cleanup. Well, that's what you have kids. Have more kids. If you don't like cleanup, have more kids. Just kidding. So now before I bring my leeks and wash stuff back to the table, there's gonna be sand on the table from where the leeks were already from cutting them. So I'm gonna get rid of that. You ready? Are y'all ready? It's our last major thing. We're gonna start braising some veggies. Okay, my pan, not quite ready for that yet. Your bone-in chicken? Yeah. You know, there's an inside joke that too long to tell you right now, but we'll talk about carrot. So you got your carrot. Where's my camera? There it is. Got your carrot. I'm going to shave off the end. Shave that off. Shave off the other. Now don't go cutting like this, like a quarter-inch thick sometimes. I mean, that's just a waste. Just barely shave that thing. Don't waste food, right? And then we're going to cut it in half. Now, anytime something is round, it's dangerous. So I need to cut a flat spot. So when I hold on to it, I take the heel of my hand and sit it on the table. Look, now it's nice and firm. Up here, it can roll around. So we say down for stability, up for agility. Down for stability, up for agility. Just set your heel, your hand down. I'm going to cut off. Actually, I'm just going to cut this one in half. Make it easy on you. Cut it in half. Then I'm going to cut that into 3 pieces. Okay, you want these to be rather kind of thick pieces because we're gonna braise them. So cut this in half. This piece, I'm probably only gonna cut it in half. The smaller end. Then we have that. I'm gonna take my leek. Now, you've got a lot of green stuff, so what you can do, you can kind of thumb through your leek to see where you want to use the white and the light green. So I'm gonna probably cut mine about right there. There's some stuff that I might just use, like that center. I might take that center out. That's not great, but it's decently usable. This here, I could use it for stock or something, so I'll set it aside. Actually, I'm going to sit it back on this tray. Get rid of it. Your leek, I'm going to cut it there. I'm going to cut it in quarters, and that's just perfect. And here, I'm going to cut this one in half. Cut that in quarters. There we go. Now, what I should have done, and now in hindsight, 2020, what I should have done is I should have just barely, like I should have left a little bit more of the core on it. Just barely shaved that hair off so it helped hold this together. But I cut a little too much off there. There was. Oh well. Right here, I've got a centerpiece that I might use. The rest can go by the wayside for now. So this is going to be pretty simple. I'll get my carrots over here. Get my leeks back on the tray. Pull my pan over. Let me know if I'm going too fast. Let me know if I'm going too fast in the chat. But now we're going to saute again. No, so I still have this left, okay? I still have my Parmesan, some of my pancetta, and my asparagus tips. That's for later. Okay, so later. Okay, what about it? Oh, well, behind, just wash them good. Wash your leeks good and cut them. Cut off the really dark green parts and just leave them in whole pieces like that. Like I cut my leek. My leek is now, it's in quarters, right? It's in quarters. So I left them in large pieces. What's that? Good? Okay. And so here, really, all I'm going to do is I'm going to heat my pan, not too hot actually right now because I don't want it to splatter on me. But we're just going to take a little bit of oil, put it in our pan. So I did not heat my pan super hot on this one. And I'm going to put my leeks and carrots in. Yeah, I mean, I hear a little bit sizzle, so we're at a very low saute. Put my carrots in. And then we're just gonna add chicken broth. You could have water if you want to at home. So braising is where you take liquid and you put liquid either up to half or up to 2/3 of the way covering something. You usually leave a little bit exposed. And so braising is usually where you have very still liquid. So we will just have a very, very, very low simmer to it when we're done. You can actually braise in the oven really well. So we could turn the oven on and put our veggies and stuff in there. You know what? That's actually a great idea. So then you don't have to worry about stirring and stuff. So if you want to, turn your oven on to like 375. Now, you don't have to go in the oven. You can do this on the stovetop. But all I'm going to do is I'm going to pour liquid, whether it's by water. Careful now, it's going to steam up, so lean back. And I'm going to pour liquid till we're about 2/3 of the way covered with liquid. Okay. I'm going to turn that up to a simmer. Bring it to a rolling boil for just a second. I definitely am going to season with a little bit of salt. In this one. Okay. Question?
Yeah.
Okay. Just turn it off. If your cream sauce separated, just turn it off. And then we have a couple different ways we can fix it. So one, just letting it cool and stirring it, whisking it, may bring it right back together. That's one. The second is, do you have any more heavy cream? Someone broke their sauce. Do you have any more heavy cream? Answer that for me. Well, I'm still doing it. So my recap for braised vegetables, basically just putting my vegetables in the pan and I'm putting chicken stock on them until they're about 2/3 of the way covered. And I'm bringing that liquid to a boil. It's starting to come to a simmer right now. That's it for now. You have 2 liquids for vegetables. Oh yeah, there's some white wine. Here, white wine. You have white wine. Just pour some in there. That's it. Oh, easy, easy. All right, did I find out if you have the broken sauce? Do you have more cream? Or if you don't have enough, yeah, we could, if you don't have enough cream or milk for your sauce, yes, you can add a little bit of white wine. I would stretch it out a little bit, but I wouldn't add more than 1/4 of the total volume of your sauce with white wine. That's fine. If you add your Parmesan to your sauce, just turn the heat off. Leave it. Didn't y'all listen to my story? Adding Parmesan while you're cooking and it gets gritty. Hey, if y'all aren't gonna listen, what am I doing? I'm just kidding. I love all of you. I'm just kidding. Okay, I'm bringing this to a boil. And then, what's that? Whoops. Y'all need to wax on and wax off. All right, I'm bringing it to a boil. I'm going to set it aside. Now, I'm going to keep my vegetables on my burner back there on my stove until I'm just going to keep them on like a really low simmer, just a little bit of bubbles, until my oven finishes preheating, and then I'll put the whole pan in the oven, okay? Yes, correct. The only thing that's cooking right now, the only thing that has any heat on it right now is the braised vegetables, and that's just a little bit of heat until my oven comes up to temperature. All right, it's time for pasta now, y'all. It's time for pasta. I'm gonna make a bunch of space right now. Water is already on. I guess. Hey, I lied. There's 2 things on right now. Turn your water pot on to come to a boil for cooking pasta. Do that. Drink something. You probably need to hydrate. Lauren, if your cream sauce is really thick, that's okay. Just add some more milk to it, add a little water to it if you like. Oven is optional. For those of you who are asking, the oven is optional. You can just lightly just keep your veggies just a really low simmer on the stovetop for their entirety until they're done. But if you'd like to put them in the oven, you're welcome to do so. Temperature 375. The temperature 350 would work too. 400. Well, no, actually, well, water boils at 212, and you lose anywhere from 40 to 50 degrees when something's inside the oven for as far as like what the temperature is compared to what the food is. So we really could turn our oven heat down. If we think about it, water boils at 212, so we actually move this down to 300. Your vegetables would cook really well in the oven. Because here's what I'm getting at. My mind's just kind of racing for you a little bit. Braising is where you don't want the movement of you really don't want the water moving very much. Because if the liquid is moving, it rips everything apart. So braising is kind of almost like hot, still liquid that slowly starts to cook everything. Okay, and so that's what braising is about. It's kind of like a long, slow thing. We're braising vegetables, so they really won't have to braise for all that long for us to be able to use them. Oh, I got a herd out there? Love it. Okay. All right, it's time for pasta, y'all. Get rid of my cutting board here. Do not cover your vegetable. Do not cover your vegetable. I know everyone wants to cover everything. You don't need to cover everything. It's okay. Cover everything in prayer, but not all of your food. Yes, I will be. We'll talk about pasta water when it's time. Now, you want to get your space cleared off. Give you a nice abundant amount of space to work with. Make sure it's dry. To dry it. How many of you have a pasta rolling machine? I would like to know how many of you do. Just chat. Okay, never mind. So Ted, my producer, said for this, just real quick, how many of you have one of these guys? Raise your hand. Okay. Okay. Cool. So a lot of you have rolling pins, and some of you don't. I was just curious. I'm going to show you both ways. So Olivia, the vegetables are just going to be until they're soft enough to eat in the oven at 375, just until they're soft enough to eat. So that means you have to take a little piece of carrot out and try it just to see. But so we have our pasta dough, dusting flour, either your pasta machine or your rolling pin. These are what you need. You probably could use bench scraper or a knife. Actually, you will need a knife. You definitely will need a knife. Yes, get all your mise en place together, all your stuff in order. If you like cooking a lot, it'd be a great. Okay, my oven is preheated. Veggies, Chef Joe following me around here. So veggies are here. They're steaming still because I had the temperature on low. The oven is ready. There's no lid. They're going in the oven, in the pan, just like that.
Little rack.
Yep, somewhere, anywhere. Doesn't matter. I'm going to set a timer for 15, and we'll check them. I don't ever set timers for doneness. I set timers in order to check the food. All right. We're going to pasta. Are you ready? Let me know in the chat room. Are you ready to roll that dough? Ready. Let's do it. Take your dough. I'm going to cut. Now, earlier, when you put your finger on your dough, your fingerprint should have disappeared. Now, your fingerprint should stay. See how my fingerprint just stays in there? Okay. See that? That's good. Here's what you need to know. Very, very important. You don't want to start, like, if you start squeezing your dough, you're going to start developing gluten. So earlier, when you kneaded your dough, it got really tough and really tight. That's why when you pressed on it, it was like a little trampoline, a little springy ball. Okay? That's called elasticity. And so all the gluten the proteins got connected, formed gluten strands, and then they got really tight. Okay? Now, they've been sitting for a little while. The strength is still there, but now they're relaxed. So if you start folding this over and doing crazy things with it, then your dough is going to get really tight again, and we don't want that. So I'm gonna cut mine in half, and you can cut it into pieces for everybody who's working with you. Now this extra half, put it back underneath plastic wrap. Don't let it get dry. So here, you're gonna take 3 fingers, 2 fingers and your thumb. Get a big chunk of dusting flour and dust it. Dust your table. Okay? If you sprinkle, that's a lot of flour. We don't want to do that. That's what you do for pastry. For this, you want to take your wrist and flick it sideways so you don't get too much flour on your surface. And then we are going to knead the dough just once or maybe twice. We'll see. So I'm going to fold the dough in half, press it down, and turn. Probably just going to do it one time. Look at that asparagus in there. Twice. Do it one more time. Fold, press, turn. There we go. That's it. Don't do any more, because we want your dough to be able to roll out. And so from here, this is just like rolling anything. We've got these things here called the rolling rules. So the rolling rules here at the classroom, and really for you at home, should be the same. We start in the middle, and you roll forward. That red pepper flake. Then you come back to the middle, and you roll back. So middle, roll forward. Start in the middle, roll back, then you turn the dough. So here, I'm not going to do this. Just follow my lead. Then I turned it 90 degrees. I'm going to start in the middle. I'm going to roll forward, middle, roll back, and then I'm going to turn the dough again. So here's the rules. I only roll forward and back. That's it. And we do that with everything, because if you roll side to side, so a lot of times what people do is what I see. People roll forward and back, and then they roll side to side, right? And you hit all the angles. Right? And then everything gets bigger, like you make your dough a lot bigger, but then you can't get it off the table. And that's because you basically, if the dough doesn't move, as we said earlier, when you press on a dough, you squeeze the moisture out of it. And when you squeeze the moisture out, it's going to start to soak up all this flour here and stick to the table. Or you just keep adding a bunch of flour and making your dough really dry. We don't want to do that either. So you start in the middle, and you roll forward, middle, roll back, and then you turn the dough. And by doing that, it allows you to fix any problems. So if a little bit of dough is sticking, you can just take a little flour and just fix it before it becomes a huge problem. Okay? Now, a lot of you know me. You know that I love to talk about the relational side of things. And so just like anything in our life, if you got a little problem, just fix it now before it becomes a big problem. Because once you make it a big problem and you get your dough stuck to your whole table, you probably have to scrape it up and start all over. And so with your relationships, you don't want to do that, right? You think about the people around you. When you get a problem, just go ahead and tackle it now. Just fix it now while the problem's small, so you can move on and keep things going. Okay. So now pasta dough, we want the pasta dough to be longer than it is wide. And so that means we're going to roll forward, roll back, and then I'm not going to turn it this time. I'm just going to pick it up to make sure it's not sticking. Put it right back down where it was. I'm going to roll again. Middle, roll forward, middle, roll back, and I'm going to pick it up again, set it back down. Middle, roll forward, and start to need some space. Middle, roll back. I good? Well, somebody was trying to call me on my phone. That's exactly what's going on. So roll forward. Now this is getting kind of long for me because I need to get really thin. So I'm going to take this and I'm going to cut it in half. I'm going to take this piece, Chef Joe, right there. And I'm going to take and put my piece I'm not using underneath plastic wrap. So I can continue to work with this one. So here, now I might need to dust my table again with some flour. I'm going to roll forward, roll back, pick it up, roll forward, roll back. Now if you notice, every time I roll this, here, look real close. See where it's at right now. And as I roll it, it's going to stretch out. But then as soon as I let go, it shrinks back some. That's called elasticity. And so it's going to happen often for you that it'll do that. So what we're going to do is we're going to take a break from it. I'm going to roll forward, roll back, try to get it big and try to get it thin. Keep picking it up, keep it from sticking to the table. Now you'll notice something else I do, that I stop here at the edge. You can kind of see a little bit of dough left. I don't go all the way to the table with the rolling pin, because if you do that, this edge here is really thin and it puts a lot of moisture on your rolling pin. You don't want the moisture on the rolling pin. There we go. This is actually coming out kind of nicely. So what's happening is if you feel like this is a cruel trick and every time you roll your dough out, it shrinks back again, all right, let Chef Joe know if that's happening to you. All right, if you keep rolling it out and it keeps shrinking back, then what you do is you just set it aside and you let it rest. All that gluten needs to rest. Okay? So how thin should it be? I saw that question. How thin should it be? Let's figure out a way we can measure that for you. I'm going to go, I don't know, can you see that? It's not done yet. Can you see thickness? You know, it's like 4 sheets of paper maybe. 4 sheets of paper stuck together. Yeah, I mean, thickness of my fork, right? That's the thickness of my fork. Probably about right. Yeah, and it's gonna go a little thinner before we're all said and done. And your thickness of your pasta can go, I mean, really whatever you like, but it tastes a little better when it's a little thinner. If it's thick, it kind of gets a little chewy. So now I'm gonna take my other piece. And I'm gonna dust my table with flour again. Let me know, how we doing out there, y'all? We doing okay? You rolling your pasta? Is it coming out? It's starting to look pretty good? Let Chef Joe know in the chat room. So press in the middle, roll forward, middle, roll back, turn the dough. Middle, roll forward, middle, roll back, turn the dough. Middle, roll forward, middle, roll back, pick the dough up. Middle, roll forward. Now, when you do the middle, this is where you press. So here's where you set how hard you press. Press it, and then roll it out. Keep that pressure all the way to the edge. Middle, roll it out. That's how you roll nicely. Middle, roll forward. Middle, roll back. Pick it up. Middle, roll forward. You're going to be saying that in your sleep now. Middle, roll back. Turn it. I just turned it a whole 180 on that one. I don't need it to be any wider. I need it to be longer. You want it to be about the length that you would have of a box of pasta, right? If you got some of that non-fresh stuff, that dried stuff from your pantry, pull that out and line it up. You want it to be about that long. They do that length for a couple of reasons. One, it fits on the store shelves. That's one reason. But two, you want something to be, a length that works that you can put in your mouth. So there we go. I've got my 2 pieces here rolled out. I'm going to put them underneath the plastic wrap so they don't dry out. All right, if you've got a pasta machine, we're going to you right now. Pasta machine. For those of you who have one, you want to set it up. I like it mine at the edge of the table. And then take my pasta machine. Well, so some of these have feet on the bottom of them. They always fall off of ours. So that's why I use this this is shelf liner, some sort of rubber mat or paper towel, like wet paper towel. Not wet, a paper towel or something to give it some grip. But if yours has a little feet on it, you don't need this. Okay? But my feet come off all the time because we move them around. So I put that on the edge of the table. Now the clamps that go in the middle, those have broken for us. We use them so much. So I got this clamp from Lowe's, and I put this on here, tighten it down. Yep, everything's at the edge, right? Press that clamp all the way in. Then you take your handle. All right, remove this guy. Go a little closer. Then you take your handle, and the handle goes in. Don't force it. It'll find its own groove. There you go. So that's operational. Then your knob. My knob, your pasta machine may be different than mine. Mine has this knob, and the way mine works is you pull it out and you turn. Pull out and turn. And go to the widest setting. On mine, you can look at the rollers in here. There's 2 rollers, right? And you can look at the space right in the middle. And if they're getting wider, that means you're going in the right direction. So I go all the way down to mine's at 0. 0, that means my rollers are at the widest setting. That's what I want to do. Let me know if I'm going too fast. If you have any questions in the chat room, please let Chef Joe know. I'm just going to keep making some pasta. We're going to go a little bit over. I'm sorry if I said we're eating at 7:30. It might be a little bit later than that. Here, I'm going to dust my table with flour again. I'm going to take my other piece of dough. Now, this one might be too much for the pasta machine. I'm going to cut it in half and put the extra half underneath the table. Underneath the plastic wrap, sorry. But here, I want to get it. I like to have dusting flour in front of me to just wipe the dough into. Because you don't want a lot of flour. You just want enough to barely coat the dough. Because here's the rule about when you're using the pasta roller. Is if your dough, let me see if I can get here. If your dough sticks, yeah, I get it. If your dough will stick to itself, then you need to dust it. If it sticks to itself, you'll need to dust it. Take this one, it won't stick. Now, the next thing, the pasta machines are not made for big, honking, thick pieces of dough. Look. That's how wide mine is. That's how far the rollers are apart, that big. This thing does not fit there, okay? So you want to take your dough and flatten it. Flatten it down. Hey, if you're having a great time, let us know, okay? This has been, the pace is different than last week of this one. So if you're having a great time, just let us know in the chat room. Give a shout out to everybody. I'm having a blast. I love working with dough. It's so much fun. So get your dough as flat as you can. Just smash it down. And then you're going to take your dough, and right here, this edge, this is the edge that I'm going to put into the machine to start, right there. So I want you to, hi-ya! Right, give a good karate chop. Give a little karate chop to make it nice and thin, right there, so that it gets started nice and easy into the machine. And you're gonna roll it through. If your first time, I'm still on 0. I'm on 0. Now from there, I am going to knead the dough 2 or 3 times with the machine. So you're gonna fold the dough in half, right? Press it. Turn, just like we did earlier, and then add a little karate chop. Add a karate chop for that edge to go into the pasta machine. Flip that over. The pasta machine can knead the dough very gently. It's beautiful how it does it. It doesn't really make it too elastic. But if you look real close, if I pull that out, you see how it shrinks back. Ooh, there's our vegetables. Chef Joe's gonna pull those out. I'm gonna keep going. So fold. Press, turn, karate chop, hi-ya! Right there. No, not here. That doesn't do you any good. Or there, or there. You get right at the edge, right there, right at the edge. So to get that thin, so that it makes it into the pasta machine. So here, I kneaded it twice. That's plenty. We're gonna check the veggies. There's a carrot. So I'm gonna blow on it. It's firm, but it is just about cooked all the way through. We're gonna give it another 5 minutes, and I bet you those are done. Chef Joe, would you mind putting them back in for another 5? Excellent. Pretty tasty though. So I've kneaded my dough 2 times now. I'm gonna check it. Is it sticky? It's sticking to itself just a little bit. So dust it in some more flour. I'm going to number 1. I move my pasta machine to number 1. There it is. Karate chop. Now, there's no more folding. We only fold on 0. We only fold on 0. Say it with me. We only fold on 0. We only fold on 0. I'm going to put this in because I'm on number 1. So there'll be no more folding of the dough. Now we're going to go number 2. Karate chop. Pick it up. Put it in here. Water. Checking my water. My water is almost to a boil. Then I'm going to karate chop. Go to number 3. Now do this with me. Put your hands out just like this. Because as your dough starts to get longer, you want to take the dough and throw it on the back of your hand just like that. That's the easiest way to work with the dough. If you try to use your fingers and things, it'll rip holes in it and makes it look all funny, right? Stretches it all weirdly. So you want to throw it on the back of your hand, karate chop, and it allows you to put it in the roller. Although I already did 3. You go. I'm on 4. Now I'm gonna see still on the back of my hand. Go to 5. You may or may not need to karate chop at this point. It may just be thin enough to get started. And on my pasta machine, this is your preference. But on my pasta machine, I like to go to about 5. So I'm at 5, and I'm gonna be done. Okay. Here's how you can tell as well is on my table. I don't know if you can see it. Like as I'm moving it, I can see the table just barely through the dough. I can just barely see it. So really, the pasta machine, it's done its job, flattening out the pasta. Now, you want to let it dry for a little while before you cut it, but we don't ever have time for that in my classes. So what we're going to do is you're going to take some flour and rub it on, flip it over, take some more flour, rub it on the backside. We're going to set that one aside for just a minute. Yeah, so Patty, we are definitely going to show you how to cut your pasta if you don't have a pasta machine. Gotcha on that one. And then I hear Ed, you want to? Oh, are you the one who made the rolling pin that like out of walnut you were telling me about? So so give us just a minute before we pull anyone. If you're having a problem, we can pull you up on video right now. But I know I'm close to time, so I want to kind of get some of this finished up, and then I'm going to stay on for questions. But I want to be able to get people eating who are hungry, because I know you're hungry out there. So I'm going to set this pasta machine aside because these guys are ready. So your pasta, the pasta that you hand rolled, go ahead and uncover it. You need to dry out a little bit as well. We could have done that earlier, and I just forgot about it. So if you don't have a pasta machine, here's what you're going to do. Is everybody ready? Okay. So you dust it with flour, just like we did this other piece. So dust it with flour. Don't be afraid about using kind of like a lot, because it'll come off. Dust the other side with flour as well. Oh, it's a little thick. What I'm going to do What's that? Got it. So this one, I want it to be a little thinner. So I'm just gonna roll it out a little bit more. I'm pressing hard to get it to roll out. All right. So it's dusted and floured pretty well. Now, take it and roll it up lightly. Roll it up into a log. Again, don't press hard right now. Just super light, barely even, just enough pressure just to get it to roll. Just enough pressure. All right. Are you ready? We're making pasta. So if you want to make some pappardelle, which is it's a wider noodle, you can cut wider pieces. Now, make sure it's floured well before you roll. I mentioned it, but I want to say it again. Okay. Look, now we got pappardelle. Eh? Eh? Look at that. Pappardelle. Eh? There you go. There you go. Then we got some pappardelle, right? We got some hand cut pasta there. Now, if you want some fettuccine, cut it a little bit smaller. As long as it's floured well, it'll just come right back out. So there's some pappardelle, there's some fettuccine right there. All right, and then we have some linguine, which is thinner. Now, when you're doing this, when you're cutting your pasta, take your fingers and kind of like hold the sides and the top, so that it does. And then when you take your knife should slide. If you don't, you can use a serrated knife too if you want to do this part, but don't just press down. If you press down, look what happens. Okay, if you press down, it just squeezes the dough. Like, can you see that? It just kind of squeezes it. You get side view, right? And then it'll all just get gunky. So you want when you cut it, you want the rounds to still be round, so that you slide, very light pressure. Barely any pressure at all. All right. So there's our. What was I doing? Linguine. So it should have been a little bit thinner. You can do fettuccine already. Pappardelle, fettuccine, the linguine. Okay. Linguine about that thick. Okay. Right. Unroll them. All right. So you can just, if you have enough flour on them, you should just be able to kind of fluff them, and they'll come apart. Right. And then your angel hair, you cut nice and thin. I'm an angel hair kind of guy. My wife, she's got angel hair. She's an angel. She's so sweet. I love her. She is the sweet. Well, okay. So if some of you don't know this, but my wife is a pastry chef, and she is technically in the business. She's the sweet of sweet and savory. But relationally, she's kind of salty sometimes, and I'm the sweet. Don't tell. I know some of you are texting her right now. Carrie, don't do it. Don't do it, Carrie. Kirsten, don't do it either, Kirsten. I know what's happening. Those are Heather's sisters. You know I'm telling the truth. Go ahead. If I'm telling the truth, just say it in the chat room. We won't. The chat room's not recorded. Okay, it is. Heather's not in the chat. I can confirm that Heather is not in the chat. Now, I can confirm that. Look at that angel hair. Look at that pretty stuff right there. Look at that. Okay. So you've got pappardelle, right? You've got the fettuccine, the linguine, right? And the angel hair right there. You got all those. Let me show you something else. Just for fun. I don't expect you to do these right now because they take time. Where is it? No, I'm looking for this guy. Chopstick. Hey, real quick, is everyone doing okay out there with your pasta? You getting it cut, ready to cook? Everyone, you doing good? Let me know. Let me know in the chat. I want to make sure that everyone's okay. So you can take a chopstick, any sort of like chopstick or wooden rod or any pole you've got. and we can cut pieces like that. Now, if this isn't quite the right dough to be, right kind of pasta dough to be doing shapes with, I just wanted to show you for fun. You really need like a semolina dough. This one was made of flour, which is the inner part of the wheat. This is called the soft wheat. So it's made from the soft inner parts of the wheat germ. And then semolina comes from the outer husk, which is a lot more coarser and rougher. And it'll actually make a stiffer pasta dough that will hold its shape when you do it. Yes, please uncurl all of your pasta. You should uncurl all of your pasta, right? Just fluff it. So Patty, fluff it all so it's nice and uncurl. And so here, I'm just cutting some strips. Now again, these won't work really well because this dough is not made for it. But you can take this and you can just press right there at the end to hold it on and then twist. All right, this is called fusilli. Fusilli. Oh, stop being so fusilli. Chef Joe says, okay, that one's not going to work because I forgot a crucial step. What do you think I forgot? Flour. Rub that guy in flour. We should definitely flour this then. Okay. Okay, do that. Flour everything. Then put it on. There we go. Oh, came right off. Oh, like a little snake. Click on that. There. Oh, come on. Being difficult. Just like my wife. Just kidding. Just kidding. Yes, I know we're at time. It's 7:36. And y'all are like, I'm starving. I'll quit talking. We're going to finish this up. Hey, some of you know me by now. I mean, like, there's got to be a good story involved, and that always makes me go over time. There you go. You get your fusilli on the stick. And we will be doing a pasta shapes class probably coming up in the next month or two where we'll use a different dough and we'll do all kinds of different shapes. You kind of give a little squeeze and you slide this guy off. Again, if it's a different dough, it'll actually stay pretty well. But you can see my little fusilli. There we are. For those of you who are cutting on the pasta machine, a couple of tips for you. I'm going to hunker this guy back down. Joe, my veggies are done. Is that right? Can you turn on my sauces? You probably want to warm your sauces up right now, everybody. Warm up your cream sauce. Warm up your marinara sauce. Turn them on if they're not already still warm. And then those of you take your cutter, and your pasta is not dry enough right now, y'all, to use a small one, like the linguine, the angel hair cutter. Don't use that one. Use the fettuccine. Use the wide one because your pasta is just not dry enough for it. So slide that guy on, and then take your dough and cut it into a length that's more edible. And you can take your thumb, press it right here on the edge. Just what that does is it brings a little moisture to the front and makes it thinner. Help you get, it's like the karate chop, right? The karate chop doesn't work when the dough is thin. Put your handle in there. There's no knob. Just one size cuts all. And here's my tip. When you start cutting, go very, very low. Oh, there it is. You see it? I see it. You see it? As soon as you see it, you can go as fast as you want to. All right? I want you to go slowly at first to make sure that the wet noodles, because they're wet, make sure that they don't curl around your cutter and ruins your cutting wheel. So there's our pasta. Okay? This is not something you might see online. This pasta is not dry enough for you to kind of like twist up into a nest. It'll become a mess, right? It wasn't even dry enough for it to all come apart. So see how if they're still sticking on you, that's because the dough needs 10 more minutes, 15 more minutes of drying before it was ready to cut. And that's okay. You just peel them apart. Not a problem. Happens all the time. But if they dry for 20 minutes, 30 minutes, they'll probably be separated when they come through the machine, and that's pretty cool. But if you let them go too dry, they'll get brittle and they'll just break right apart. So I'm going to take these and I'm just going to line them, okay? Lay them there. Don't make a mess out of them. And now let's go ahead and put this together. We're eating in 4 minutes. Okay. So we have our pasta water about to come over. Everything's hot, so make sure you use a towel or hot hands. Then you want to add some salt to your water. Don't be scared. Add some salt to your water. Add some salt. So you're going to taste it. You can get a spoon. Give a little stir. So how salty should your water be? Well, it should taste like you just took a dive in the ocean and guzzled the water. If your water is bland, everything else that you cook in it will be bland as well. You want to make sure your water tastes amazing, amazing on its own. Not yet. That's probably good. Make sure your water tastes amazing. And then you can take your noodles and drizzle them in like rain. Look at that. Drizzle them in. So I'm gonna do them in different batches just to keep the sizes different. And how long? We're taking a quiz. How long will it take to cook this pasta? Let me know in the chat room right now. How long will it take? And while you're doing that, go ahead and take your asparagus tips and put them in your sauce if you haven't already.
12 minutes, 4 minutes, 4 minutes, 10 minutes, 3 minutes, 4 minutes, 21, 4, 3, 2, 4, 3, 4, 2, 3.
I got 12 minutes and 21 minutes. I am so glad you're here so I can teach you how to cook. I'm so glad you're here. Now keep an eye on your water. My water is going to boil over. I'm going to turn it down just a hair. Okay. Your pasta will take about 2 minutes. Where's my 2 minutes? 2 minutes to cook. Here's why. Your pasta out of the box is dry. So it first has to hydrate before the pasta will cook. But your pasta is fresh. It's already hydrated. So all we need to do is cook the starch. It takes about 2 minutes. So I'm going to clear a spot. And what are we doing? We're going to do some, I think we're going to toss it in some cream sauce. We are going to toss it in some cream sauce. All right. I brought my cream sauce back to a simmer. Threw my asparagus tips in. It's nice and steamy. Now, for safety, if you take it out with tongs, you can do that. Take your noodles out. Eat one, right? Eat one. I can tell by feeling it. I can tell just by feel that my pasta is done. If you want to, eat one. But to keep your tongs straight up and down when you pull them out. Pull them out and drain them. No, I'm good. I'm good, Chef Joe. I'm plenty. Thank you. Pull them out and let them drain. Use tongs, or you could use, like I'm not draining my water. I'm going to cook more pasta. So I'm leaving my water on. So sometimes people take it and pour it into a sink through a colander. If you're doing all your pasta at once, you can do that. But here I'm going to use this pasta water a couple more times. So there we go. Now, if your sauce got really thick and you want to thin it down, take a little of this pasta water right here. This little secret. Take a little pasta water and put it into your sauce. Okay? And that will make it like thin it out. It'll help season a little bit. Oh, it'll be amazing. So I'm going to take my noodles. I'm going to put them in this bowl. And I'm going to add some sauce to them. I like them tossed together. You don't have to do it this way, but to me, I think it's better this way. Take your noodles and toss them with the pasta. Yes, please. All right here, Chef Joe. And then I'm going to take my noodles. Now here's the secret. You're watching. Here's the secret. If you're distracted right now, just pause for 5 seconds. You grab your noodles. You put them over top of your plate, and then twist your plate twist, twist, twist your plate on the way down, and I'll make a nice little love nest, okay, of pasta. I've got some of the asparagus tips that kind of starting to show themselves. Pull some of those out if you want to. Oh, yeah. Do that. And then we have Parmesan. Okay. We have your pancetta that we saved from earlier. Okay. And garnish it up. And then your braised vegetables. See, mine still have liquid in them. That's just fine. You could use a little of this liquid to thin out one of your sauces if you wanted to. I'm going to take a couple pieces of carrot here. One of my leeks. And bon appetit. Huh? I put parm on top of it. You can toss some Parmesan in with your sauce, in with your noodles too, right here. This would be the time. Put Parmesan in with the sauce when you're mixing it up. That would be the time to add your Parmesan, or just Parmesan on top. Either one is just fine. I know y'all are hungry. We went a few minutes over, but then your marinara sauce. Well, what do you do with that? Well, you do the same thing. So you can. Well, you could. Some people like, tomatoes, like a tomato cream sauce. So you could actually go ahead and add a little bit of your marinara sauce to this plate. It would not hurt a thing for those to get mixed together. Okay? Or you just cook more pasta and toss it with marinara sauce and put it on the plate. I'm going to cook some more right now. All right. So let me know if you're cooking. Let me know if you're cooking, if you're heading to the table now to start eating. All right. I think I need a new, yeah. Chef Joe's got me. Fantastic. Okay. And so I would do the same thing. I'm going to get a different bowl of marinara sauce, toss it with my noodles, put it on a plate, a little Parmesan on top, a little veggie on the side, and eat. So, all right. Thank you from Sweet and Savory. Love you. Pray hard and be at peace with things right now, and we'll all get through this together.